We have decreasing numbers of admissions to hospital, a sign that we are coming to the end of this period of the pandemic, a decrease in test positivity, and the incidence in those aged 12 and under remains below the population average.
The Taoiseach says some restrictions could be eased from Easter Monday if the current trends continues. In a letter to his Fine Gael colleagues today, Leo Varadkar said the 5K travel rule may be relaxed from April 5th and the construction sector could fully reopen. The Oireachtas has agreed to increase fines for people going on holidays abroad to €2,000 per person. The legislation to give power to mandatory hotel quarantine has also passed all stages in the Dáil and Shannon. However, it's unclear when either measure will come into force. Health Minister Stephen Donnelly has said the government still rejects pursuing a zero COVID strategy with the new regulations.
You'd have to stand over even harsher measures than we have in place right now, potentially right through to the autumn. In the Dáil, I heard certain members of the opposition suggest you could get there in 4 to 6 weeks. Nonsense. Not a chance, could you?
Unions have criticised the decision by Bank of Ireland to close 88 of its branches here, 15 more to close in the north, with the bank saying it's because of a rise in digital banking. SIPTU says the closures are a bolt out of the blue and a major shock for staff, while the Financial Services Union says the closures are shameful and an act of betrayal to loyal staff and customers. And finally, Twitter's expanding its use of warning labels to target misleading tweets about coronavirus vaccines. The social media platform's already challenged 11.5 million accounts worldwide on misinformation about the pandemic. Users risk a permanent suspension if they repeatedly violate rules. It's 9:02.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA, you can find our best discounts on car insurance online. Go to the aa.ie.
Cold and dry tonight with lows of -1 to +2 degrees, coldest in the Midlands. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Ready for your next big move? The trip from the fridge to the couch. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then.
What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
You're welcome along. It's the Football Show. Later on, we're going to hear from Brian Kerr. He was on co-commentary duty for us. We had the Spurs-Burnley game yesterday. Stephen Doyle was alongside him. Signs of life from Gareth Bale was the exciting news. Spurs have not been in good form of late. The worst, in fact, of Jose Mourinho's managerial career. But they won well yesterday, and Gareth Bale was good. He scored 2 goals. His all-round play was good. He showed some pace. He was sharp. He was interested. Mourinho said he's happier than he's ever been. So maybe. We'll see what Brian Kerr made of it later on. Latest in the Monday Night Football, it's Everton against Southampton. It was, last time I checked, 1-0 to Everton. It is still 1-0 to Everton. Second half has just started. Michael Keane did have a goal disallowed, but Richarlison scored the opener after just 9 minutes. So Everton's good form continues. 1-0. Second half has just started. Now it's time for Mr. P. Nevin. What's up?
Nothing at all is up, seeing as I've been watching Everton winning 1-0. It's looking good again for the Toffees. The big thing for them, if they could, they would go level, I think, with Liverpool tonight. Mm-hmm. It's just that feeling. I was talking to some friends, some Chelsea fans friends, and they were saying that the importance of top 4 in comparison to being above Spurs and Arsenal. Now I was thinking with Everton, what's really more important to Everton fans? Top 4 are actually getting above Liverpool, and I think it may be the latter.
Oh, really come on. They could not be that petty.
It's not petty. It just means so much. It's. I know everyone when you get your sensible head on. Yeah, they'll say they want top 4, but in actual fact, the joy for Evertonians if they could manage for the first time in 10 years to actually finish above Liverpool, that would be incredible. Considering the torture it's been for Evertonians in the past year or two, because Liverpool have been so brilliant. So. It's big moments for them, and they're playing well just now. They are good to watch. I'm looking forward to seeing them next week. They're playing Chelsea next week, so that should be a cracker. Oh. And as we speak just now, I think Sigurdsson's just about to take a free kick, so that's danger again.
Who do you support when it's Everton-Chelsea? Be honest.
I'll be absolutely honest. Chelsea's my team. But if Chelsea are in a position where they don't really need the points and Everton need them, I'd want Everton to win.
Okay.
So it's one of those ones. It's kind of dependent, really. But it's like I just don't like the game very much. Just hate going to the game because I don't like seeing either of those teams getting beat because I like them so much. So that's exactly how I feel about it. And then people say, "Oh, you're sitting on the fence." No, Chelsea's my team, but I hate watching any of them get beat.
It's quite nice you still have affection for the teams you played for. I would think there are plenty of players who maybe were badly treated when the end came or have some issues with the club and almost can't stomach them. It's nice that you have genuine affection for those clubs still.
I actually had. I was writing about this the other day, about a club that I left, and the fans gave me horrifying abuse, absolutely battered me. And I played against them 2 days later. I'd left Kilmarnock to go to Motherwell, and Kelly fans gave me dogs abuse. And I still loved them. I thought they were brilliant. And they didn't know why I left. And it was probably about 10 years later that I finally told them. They all went, "Oh, sorry." But, you remember the good times as much as you possibly can. And I do feel sorry for a lot of players. I understand why they do not like the clubs because they became the real player that was getting dug out more than anyone else. I was kind of just fortunate. I never had that in my career.
So to quote the most overused stat of the last 24 hours, sorry, it's the nature of news cycles. This already feels somehow quite old. But Manchester United against the Big Six, since they lost 6-1 to Spurs, we are on quite the run now. So 0-0 against Chelsea at Old Trafford. Then they lost at Old Trafford to Arsenal 1-0. Then against Manchester City at Old Trafford 0-0. Then Liverpool away 0-0. Then Arsenal away 0-0. And now Chelsea away 0-0. I mean, I'm sure they haven't all been terrible games, but God damn it, Pat. My patience is wearing thin here. This is miserable. Come on.
No, I would agree with you. There doesn't seem an absolute belief within the entire group that they feel as if they can walk out and take these teams on like great United teams of the past. They walk in and they stand shoulder to shoulder. In fact, they feel bigger. When you go back to Roy Keane's and players like that, they didn't ever go out and thinking, I don't think we can live with this lot. They went out thinking, we're better than them because we are Manchester United. To be fair, watching a number of those games, and particularly the one at the weekend there, that didn't look like a group of players that felt anything other than, we'll be delighted with the point here. I mean, I really felt that Chelsea were the team that wanted the 3 points more than them. But it was more than that. It was a period in the first half, I thought United, they were really fast and really, the pace and the tempo of it was really, really good. I thought, well, hey, that's good because this is going to make for some game if you keep on doing that. But they just dropped and they dropped and they dropped, and you just thought, you kind of expected more. There doesn't seem to have been an explosion. Now, it may be that Cavani might have made a bit of a difference, but there didn't seem to be a group feeling that we're that good yet. Even though league position's great, I agree that they can't argue too much with that, and he has improved them. But there is something in it. There are odd statistics that come up sometimes. I don't think that's an odd statistic. I do think that's a wee psychological or a big psychological problem they've got. They need to overcome that if they're going to be contenders again.
If football teams in the main, and let's talk about United here for instance, know that playing at a high tempo is good, why do they stop playing at a high tempo?
Well, some people can't, game after game. I mean, just to look at the games at the moment. I mean, the games at the moment, I was watching the games at the weekend there and thinking, wait a minute, I'm going to Manchester United at Crystal Palace on Wednesday, and I'm going to Liverpool on Thursday. I'm thinking, you all been knackered. I was travelling there. I'm finding it tiring. It's a long drive, it has to be said. Before anyone shouts about COVID, yeah, if you do broadcasting, that's what you have to do apparently. We are safe and secure the way of doing it.
It does feel a bit like the Christmas schedule, though, at the moment. You don't have to look more than 2 or 3 days away, and there's another game for every team, basically.
And they're not easy. They're not easy games. And so the other thing about some of the players, it doesn't help if you're older, so it's hard to keep on going at that rate to that level. B, if you've got any niggly injuries at all, they will slow you down and not enable you to do that. The worst one, and this is the worst one, there's no point in 9 players playing at high tempo. There's no point. Doesn't work. You player playing it that specific way. It was intriguing. I'm trying to think who was the other day. It was Arsenal. Watching Arsenal. they were doing it at moments. They were deciding when to do the press, as we call it now. But playing high tempo all the time, there's some teams you just look and you think, well, you're not going to tell me, I like Anthony Martial, but you're not going to tell me he's going to be a high tempo player all the time. You're not going to tell me Paul Pogba's going to be a high tempo player all the time. So many can be, but some of them just won't want to and won't be able to as well, and for a variety of reasons. So for some teams and for some coaches, it's exactly the right thing. For others, it's a quick route to a defeat, because you need everybody doing it. And by the way, the worst thing, and anyone who's ever played at any level knows this, if the guy, the real cheat, the worst cheat, is the guy who runs in to close down and just misses it, and the ball goes back and he dives in. They're the worst guys. They're the ones that really ought to get dragged off straight away, because they don't need to chase back.
No. I was out of the game. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I tried really hard, and the fans were giving it great effort, and we were all going, "You get you've done the easy thing there," and that's the thing that there's not the top managers don't. I remember, I think it may have been Mourinho, when Juan Mata, who I adore with passion, kind of did it once. He hooked him about a minute later, and I'm thinking, I know exactly why you done that there, mate. So the buy-in needs to be from absolutely everyone, the entire group, and it has to be every week.
Because I do feel like certain players could impose a tempo on their teammates. I do feel Roy Keane on his very best days could, and actually Jordan Henderson at Liverpool, when he's out and comes back into midfield, I mean pre whatever madness is going on of late, but just when they were ticking along, I felt one of the things he really did was inject tempo, even just with his passing, one touch whenever possible and a real fizz on the ball, and almost gave the player he passed it to no choice but to inject a bit of tempo himself. Some players can do that with their own passing.
Yeah, but it's not just the passing, it's passing and the movement and the shout as well.
Yeah.
It's all three. So you pass, you move to another position to make an angle, all that sort of stuff, right? But also you shout and ball. And there would have been many better than him. Do you remember? And it's a tone. It's not always the right shout. And you know that Keane would do it, but you play with certain players and it was just a tone. It didn't even need to be. It was just a menace. And Souness used to do it all the time.
Right.
Just a menace about them that you think, yeah, I don't think I'll disagree with that. I think I'll just go and do that, even though if I'm not necessarily sure if I should be closing down there. I think I probably ought to. So you do need those personalities. Absolutely right. That's part of it as well. But it's the whole thing together. And also, those guys, you mentioned Keane, but there's quite a few of them. They're not always big names, but that are the manager's, gaffer on the pitch. And it's not because he's a dead good player. And it's not just because he shouts. It's because he spots those little moments when they're not doing it that's causing the team a problem. And he fixes it there and then. And it's hard to explain that lots of players might be capable of doing it, but only few are capable and do that and have the strength and personality to pull it off. It sounds as if everyone should do it, doesn't it? But it's just life isn't like that, because not everyone's that type of personality.
So Stuart Atwell, I mean, I know we don't like talking referee decisions. Generally, it can be quite boring, but we've nothing else to talk about. Well, okay, I'm sure we do, but let's talk Stuart Atwell. Just in case people haven't seen what's happened here, a lot of people will have seen Luke Shaw's interview post-match, where he said that, he was overhearing a conversation with Atwell and with Harry Maguire, and what he said was, I don't know why they stopped it if it's not going to be a pen. He's talking about VAR there. I don't know why they stopped it if it's not going to be a pen. The ref told Harry Maguire, if I say it's a pen, there's going to be a lot of talk about it after. So Luke Shaw felt that the ref had turned to Harry Maguire and said, if I give a penalty there is going to be a lot of talk about this afterwards. And Solskjaer came on Sky as well, and Solskjaer was saying, well, look, that penalty, look, I can't say what happened there, but it's not going to be good for him. And Jeff Shreves was like, oh, it's okay, Luke Shaw's already told us what's happened. And then Solskjaer said, okay, well, look, it's not good for him. So you've seen all you need to see. And by the way, the Chelsea website and all, he said, very cheeky putting it on their website about Harry. They're influencing referees. So slight climb down today. Manchester United have put forward the clarification from Harry Maguire that Luke Shaw in fact misheard. that the referee did not in fact say that to Harry Maguire, and Shaw misheard, and Maguire has put this message out through Manchester United. So that's what's been happening.
But the madness of it is I cannot see how it's not a penalty. I just can't see it. I just cannot see it. And this again is why we brought VAR, so you can go and clear that sort of thing up. And of course it is now if you think you understand the penalty kicks rule just now, then you're at fault, because you don't. Nobody does. Not the referees. Nobody does. There's the way they've gone back now. It's almost a full circle, which is confusing people, right? Because now the referee can go over, look at it, and see the handball, see it's a natural angle, all that sort of stuff, right? But can still say, no, I don't think that should be a penalty. That's subjective. That's back to where we were 3 years ago, isn't it? This is what so many people want to. Can we not go back to the referee? That's where we're back to now. So why bother looking at the VAR, mate? Because it's a penalty with the modern rules. I can't see any argument against it at all.
Yeah.
So that was painful to see. What they've said, that if he did say, and of course they've said he's misheard now, but if you're spending your time as a referee worrying what the press are going to say, the game, the ball's up the dike. We're finished. Because you're not there to do that. You're not there to be a PR man. You're there to referee a game of football. And everything else is secondary. You just do your job and get on with it as best of your ability. How it plays in the press or in the media or with fans is neither here nor there. So if they have said that, which they said they haven't, it's horrendous, because that's almost a finish to it. You almost can't referee after that, because people would just start saying, oh, is that a decision that you think, or is that to think?
Yes.
What do you think people are talking about? It's the reason why I had to retract it is because you can't actually go on when you've said something like that.
It could be like it's tantamount for career ending if the referee had said that. It's just so bad. I mean, the thing is, we've gone through all the growing pains of the earlier part of the season where these ridiculous handballs were happening, and then the players were starting to get used to it, as evidenced by the fact that when Hudson-Odoi was standing over Atwell's shoulder looking at the replay on VAR and he saw what we all saw, which was his hand touched the ball, his body language, I mean, it wasn't even subtle, he turned away as if to say, oh no, damn. So Hudson-Odoi, through his body language, said, I don't like the modern rules like the rest of you, but under the rule, that is a penalty. He could not believe his luck he got away with this.
He could have put a banner up saying it's a fair call, and it wouldn't have made it more obvious. But you're absolutely right. And there's not many. Thomas Tuchel said something afterwards, but he obviously hadn't watched it, because they kind of stitched him up a wee bit there. Let him watch it first, then he wouldn't have said that.
He said as well, maybe I should look at it again, in the midst of saying it definitely wasn't a penalty.
Yeah, I know, because first look, it doesn't look like it. Looks actually as if his opponent has thrown his arm up. So it's kind of a madness there, and that's a wee bit of a shame, that, because you can be made to look stupid in the media after that, when in actual fact, with better visions of it, you would look at it completely utterly differently. But it's the real sadness of it, because it's the big talking point of the game. Actually, it's not a sadness. It probably wasn't the only talking point. It wasn't a good game of football anyway. But it's horrifying that if the referees are now having to think that way. And to take it on one step further, one of the players said afterwards, why don't they come out and speak about it in the press, and then we'd understand? And that's what I always used to say. And I'm thinking now, oh my God, that would be hell. To watch them squirm in a moment like that. Because you can't just go and say it. Because the idea originally, about 25 years ago, was if there's a contentious decision, the referee comes out in the press conference and reads a statement of what he was doing, and then walks out again.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the press guys putting up with that for like any more than a week? No chance, not a hope. And then that statement would be picked apart, like any politician's statement would be. So although that sounds like a lovely answer to it, it's like everything else. It's like everything that we ever change in the game. You always must think of what the consequences are of it. And the consequences of the referees going and standing in front of a press conference after that, trust me, they are unthinkable. They're horrifying.
But I take your word, I'm with you. Where are we now with handball then? So again, you're trying to think in terms of this season. There was the new rule and every handball was being punished, and there was acrimony and there was heat and people were giving out about it. And then as time went on,
there was a sleeve.
Sleeve, everything. But then there was a sense of, okay, look, this is just the rule. They're obviously sticking to it because the refs, at the start, they rolled up their sleeves and they said, we're giving these penalties even if people aren't happy. And then there was a period where we were saying things like, well, okay, the players are going to learn. We might not like the new rule, but the players will get used to it. So now on the evidence of yesterday, there's interpretation back in there. When did that happen? I missed that memo. What's going on now?
Well, they never told us, number one, if there was a referees meeting. They do send out missives to the referees. I mean, that's always happened. It generally happens at the start of the season. And it used to be the same one every year. It used to be, this year we're going to get a hold of fouling at corner kicks and we're going to give penalties. They say it every year, and everyone went, yeah, very good, and just moved on and ignored them, right? But every year, one of two things would be pushed, and that would last for about 4 weeks, and then it would just disappear again. The problem with this one is, they are putting these little missives out to the referees and there'll be emails sent around or whatever, but they're happening too often now. And, you didn't get the memo, I didn't get the memo, some of the referees get the memo. Some of the referees get the memo and ignoring the memo. Other ones are taking it on board. Some of the VAR ones are not agreeing with the guy who's on the pitch who disagrees with that memo. It's all over the place. That is a shambles. The idea, the only time you ever change anything mid-season if something massively, obviously, disgracefully wrong has come up and you can change it. But this is just, it's been such a pig's ear of it. And I can't see at the moment. I used to always think, I'd love to be one of the guys that was on that committee that was making decisions, and I'd teach them some sense. I look at it now and I think, I have no idea where you go. I really don't know where you go yet. Because the minute you say, oh, let's go back to you're hammered, you're battered, you're never allowed to say we're going back to that, because that means that you owned up to a mistake going there in the first place. So it's a horrendous thing they're going to have to go and visit. And they're going to have to visit again. Yeah. Because it is a mess now. It's just such a joke of a mess.
When even Callum Hudson-Odoi thinks he's broken the rule and then it turns out he hasn't. I mean, it's proof that none of us know what's going on.
It was good news for one person.
Yeah.
And that was, of course, the goal. The other, who was it, the referee, that one where he blew up for the free kick for the weekend?
The Lewis Dunk going ballistic.
Yeah,
I think it was Lee Mason, wasn't it? Yeah. Who, by the way, Nuno Espirito Santo did say in December, and he was fined for saying it, that Lee Mason's not good enough to referee in the Premier League. So he was fined 25 grand for saying that, by the way. So Dunk said of this, it's embarrassing, it's a horrendous decision. I asked him could he take it, and he blew his whistle. I took it. Because if you watch it back, he blows his whistle as Dunk has kicked the ball and it's going into the net, as if to say, oh, I regret letting you take that. Right,
so yes, it's exactly what happens. The thing that's interesting about it, in the midst of it all, right, so he's made a mistake, right? And so what is his mistake? His mistake is he blew the whistle the second time. That's the mistake he made.
Yeah.
And that's the only mistake he made, actually. Because even though he changed his mind twice, everything else he done was right. So he made one mistake. He blew his whistle again.
Yeah, he panicked.
He panicked a wee bit.
Yeah.
Had he not blown his whistle again, everything would have been fine.
Yeah.
He would have let the goal stand. He had to let the goal stand. It had been taken, they'd have checked it all up. But because he'd blown his whistle again and the ball was still in play, he's no choice anymore. The ball's now out of play.
I do want to ask you just general impressions of the game, and should either side have won, or did you take anything else from it? But I'm just going to go to Goodison and check in with Shane Pennington.
It's Everton 1, Southampton 0, but already in the second half, Everton have missed a glorious chance to double the advantage in this game, and that came from Ben Godfrey. It was a corner from the right-hand side. It wasn't cleared, and the Everton defender got a snapshot in from 12 yards out, but it was headed off the line well by Vestergaard. At the other end, Southampton have just seen their best chance of the game, really, coming from a corner from this right-hand side, and there was Salisu with a header from 6 yards out, but he couldn't get it on target. It's Everton 1, Southampton 0.
So yes, Pat Nevin, final word on Stamford Bridge. Not everyone watches the games, you know. It was a sunny Sunday afternoon. Maybe they had better things to be doing, frankly, and they were proved correct, it turns out. So, 0-0, a fair result. Anything jump out at you tactically or about either manager?
Yeah, the tactics, I'm just learning Tuchel now, Thomas Tuchel now. We know generally all about what Ollie's trying to do, and it's fairly successful. It's not hyper exciting, it's fairly successful. Tuchel stuff's really interesting now, because he's now heavy metal football. Absolute heavy metal football. The pace of the closing down and was actually brilliant to watch. There's parts of it. So that technical side of it, okay, the creation wasn't great, but getting the ball back watching the likes of Mount, we know N'Golo Kante's brilliant at it, but even Kovacic and that, the way they got the ball back, it was really reminiscent of, the way that Liverpool at their very best used to do it. Remember the old Barcelona team used to get it really high up. There was moments where they were doing that, and it was an extraordinary level. And it makes sense now. I've finally figured out what he's trying to do and the way he's doing it. Because now that you look back at what he'd done to Callum Hudson-Odoi, it's total sense. No, you're not doing that. Come off. And you need to do it all the time. You need to do this high press, heavy press, sharp, and 100 mile an hour, close down, and every player's doing it at the same time. And it's extraordinary to see when you actually see it. They were working so much harder, and it never dipped. And it was very reminiscent. I'm not talking the pure skill going forward that which Liverpool had, but Liverpool, when they were doing that sort of pressing, when they were doing their gegen pressing stuff at that level, it's exactly what it looked like in a technical sense, right? So I'm really intrigued now because Liverpool can't do it anymore. They've run out of gas, and understandably, as we've said many times, they ran out of gas a lot. They got an extra 10 laps more than I thought they'd ever get, but they have to some degree. So they're doing a different version of it and pressing when they can at certain times. And the reason being is they've not got enough good players, or not got enough players of that ilk who can give you that energy in this type of season, or in any type of season. But Chelsea have. Chelsea have now got, the classic one, Chelsea a while back there, they played was it Seville, and they either made 10 or 11 changes, and they looked exactly the same. They didn't look any less of a team. So quality-wise, they've done it. If the players get tired, just bring in another 11. It's a bit like special teams in the NFL. All right, you lot have done that, right? You move out, you lot come back in. Nobody's been able to do that. And Chelsea's they actually might be able, between now and the end of the season, and maybe next season, if they keep all those players on, be able to do that. So it'll be really interesting. I'll be going to the Liverpool-Chelsea game on Thursday, dying to see how that plays out, because it's what Klopp would like to do being done against them, and they will do it. They will do it exactly the way. Klopp will hate it. So will he ask his players to step up to it and do it back? And if you do, you're going to see the most hilarious game of pressing you've ever seen.
Good. And
I just don't know if you're going to see it, because I think Liverpool tries something different, because I don't think they've got the energy levels that Chelsea have got just now. I'm not talking about quality of players, nothing got to do with that, just pure energy levels, and players that are allowed to be rested more than them. So that side of it, and it's the first Tuchel versus Klopp one of the Premiership era, and that could be great over the next number of years.
I've got to say, I'm such a fan, especially when it's quality teams, but I guess, look, quality teams make all tactics look interesting, but high-quality teams pressing the bejesus out of each other is just an encounter I like watching. I mean, that game of cat and mouse, either press is broken or the ball is one high up. Either way, something good's happening.
And it is brilliant to watch, because now and again, I watched Sheffield United the other night try to do that against Liverpool a couple of times, and they got the ball, but then they can't hold it anywhere near as good as the top players, and that's why they can't do it, because you need to hold it in a certain way. Whereas if they do the big press, then they zip, 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 pass, pass, pass. But you need to be so good to be able to do that. So it's only top quality teams that are able to do it to that level. So that's why the other teams don't try and do that as often as Liverpool used to, or Chelsea are trying to do it just now. Man City clearly do it amazingly well as anyone when they're on that type of form. But you're looking at it now, this is a weird season, but you can get lost in this season a wee bit, and you will do. But see, from next season, when you've got Ancelotti, when you've got Klopp, when you've got Pep, you've got most of the best managers in the world, and most of them will actually have pretty damn good teams, and most of them will have had a good bit of money to spend. I know I'm not wishing this season away.
I am.
We might be wishing this year away, but well, there'll be excitement left somewhere.
I'm done with this season. Wrap this season up. I'm ready for the next season.
Next one will be, honestly, next one could be an absolute cracker with the quality of players, but also the quality, the technical quality of those managers. I think that I'm really looking forward to the next one. I'm just hoping that Man City don't run away with it again, because, as I've said before, if they do get Holland, we're stuffed. We're all stuffed.
Yeah. Chelsea could do with that guy up top, couldn't they? That's the one major deficit, or no?
Everybody could do
it. Well,
it.
True, okay.
They've not got... I would say Chelsea's problem's more the creative guy. You know, the guy who can pick a lock. You know, because you have a look at Man City. Have got those guys. You know, Salah's going to do that for you. I mean, they've all got, the top teams have all got that. Harry Kane's got that.
Can Mount grow into that, or Ziyech?
He's all right. Ziyech is the one, but he's absolutely nowhere near playing well enough or been fit enough for long enough.
Yeah.
And Ziyech is the one, 100%, but he's not done it enough in the Premier League yet for a variety of reasons. It will probably be next season before you find out if he's good enough to do that. I think that's what they need, because they've got enough players that can score goals. They have. Abraham will score goals, and you know, when you finally Werner starts, he will score goals if you give him enough chances. But yeah, they need that creation. That's the thing they need.
Okay, very good. We will talk next Monday. Enjoy the game Thursday.
I'm looking forward to it already.
Good man. Pat Nevin, thank you. With us every Monday evening. Still at Goodison Park, it is Everton 1, Southampton 0 after 74 minutes of play. Real Madrid, by the way, 1-0 down this evening to Real Sociedad. Also 74 minutes played in that game. Football on Off the Ball is with thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. I mentioned at the top of the football show that we had Brian Kerr and Stephen Doyle on commentary yesterday for Spurs against Burnley, so the lads sat down for a chat afterwards. We'll bring you Brian Kerr's thoughts on Gareth Bale and Spurs next.
Young Giles, he seems to be an inside forward with a very great future.
Oh, there's no question about that at all. He's a wonderful player. He's a very quick football brain, and he was given the opportunity to use it.
The rest of the is headed up by Johansson, comes to Giles, he shoots, and it's a goal! It's a wonderful goal!
Unforgettable. Well, I think it was the climate of the times, Jim. You know, I played Manchester United, had my leg broken at Birmingham, and I think during the 60s it was a very, very tough game. And there was a lot of physical stuff, and I was regarded as a skillful player. And when you're a skillful player, you're a target. And my attitude was, well, if I'm going to make a living in this game and I want to make it, then I'm going to have to be as tough as everybody else. And I set out to do that.
Lorimer will play it wide again for Giles to drive it. And there it is from Johnny Giles.
When we came out of the second division, we scrambled a lot, and we played scrambly football. Very tenacious, very resilient in what we're doing, and at times too naughty for our own good.
And that looked very much like a right hook by Johnny Giles.
All the things that they say about Leeds, the bad things they say about it, they knew as players that we were a great team.
Giles, Alistair Brown, and again Giles. Good try, it's worked! Oh, yes! Johnny Giles!
Bobby Collins was, you remember Bobby Collins? Bobby Collins was a great Scottish player that played for Leeds. And he used to have a saying for the players, when he was rating players. Do you know what he used to say? Would he kill his granny? It's true. Would he kill his granny? Yeah. And Bobby Collins would kill his granny and his grandfather to win a match.
What we're saying tonight then, that England have got to get a manager who knows all about back alleys.
Yeah.
And they got to have players who will kill their grannies.
Duncan was a trickster anyway. He could do all sorts of tricks on and off the pitch. He could jump over a mini jar. Did you ever hear about that?
No.
Duncan McKenzie.
What?
What he did, actually, Jar, he sort of only strolled up to it 2 or 3 strides. And I honestly thought he was going to turn back and say, look, lads, I'm only joking. Hopped over it. Hopped over the mini.
In one go?
One go.
Franny Lee. You know, Franny was Man City lad, and Franny could dish it about. As it happened, the players crossed. You know, first person off was Mike Summerby. Do you remember Mike Summerby? He could get stuck in as well. Right. You know, my reaction was, "You keep your fucking nose out." See, and Billy says, "Have you seen the size of his nose, wee man?" You see.
Well, when you see a player playing, Nathan, who needs to kick up the backside, you don't have to know him. You know, like if he needs to kick up the backside, he needs to kick up the backside.
Johnny Giles then with the kick. He scores, it's 1-0 Leeds. And Bremner leaps to his feet. He could tell by the roar of the crowd.
Thanks, Richie.
Okay, Nathan.
John, good evening to you. How are you?
Good evening, Jar.
John, how are you doing? You're there?
I'm here, Adrian. Yeah, good. I hope everything works out okay, Joe. That's the main thing now.
Thinks that I am unforgettable too.
What a day for he. What a day for the Ireland side. And what a tribute to the man who's masterminded it all, Johnny Giles.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Fake crowd noise? The Emirates never sounded so good. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
On tomorrow's Pat Kenny Show.
Some of the responses politically from the left and hard left has been bordering on hysterical on this when they've been talking about the issue of house price inflation.
Sinn Féin's Eoin O'Brien responds to Housing Minister Darragh O'Brien. Is all the new safety technology in cars turning us into bad drivers? How has lockdown affected people with eating disorders? Technology with Jess Kelly and all the breaking news.
The Pat Kenny Show.
With Mater Private Network.
Tomorrow morning at 9.
On News Talk.
Keep your business connected with Air Mobile, Ireland's largest 5G network. Switch today and get a free Samsung Galaxy S20 FE 5G or iPhone 11. That's a free smartphone with 99% 4G coverage, no limits data and unlimited calls and texts. For more, call our dedicated business team on 1800 503 703 or visit air.ie/business. Air. Let's make possible. Unlimited allowance subject to fair use. Available on selected plans to businesses with up to 9 employees. Pricing excludes VAT. For full terms, see air.ie.
Every year, the Low Pay Commission makes recommendations to the government on the national minimum wage. These recommendations try to ensure a fair and sustainable wage while keeping Ireland competitive. We want to hear your opinion to allow us present a truly balanced view. Visit gov.ie/minimum wage before March 7th and have your say on the minimum wage.
Why have thousands of Irish businesses already signed up for the Advantage card from An Post Commerce? Well, it gives you a massive 34% off standard parcel labels and discounted stamps too, helping you cut your delivery costs. So make sure your business is taking full advantage of these fantastic savings. Get yours free today at your local post office or visit onpost.com/advantage card. An Post Commerce for your world. Terms and conditions apply. Offer ends April 30th.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Ready for your next big move? The trip from the fridge to the couch. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
You're very welcome back. Still 1-0 to Everton against Southampton, 10 minutes to go. As is always the case here in Off the Ball, we had live Premier League commentary on a Sunday. So yesterday we had Chelsea, Manchester United. We also had Spurs' very comprehensive win against Burnley. Gareth Bale was kind of the story in many ways. We've been waiting for signs of life for Gareth Bale, so it was great to see him back and playing well. Nathan Murphy and Brian Kerr were on commentary duty of this one. The lads had a chat afterwards. Have a listen.
Well, Brian, a rare, comfortable afternoon for Tottenham. 2 goals for Gareth Bale. Is he back?
Well, he played very well today. I think he obviously did enough in the second half last week against West Ham to convince Jose Mourinho that he deserved a starting place. He hasn't done enough before now, that's for sure. I would concur with Jose Mourinho that he hasn't looked good enough, hasn't looked enthusiastic or brave or strong in possession in the earlier games he's played, be it the FA Cup, the Europa League, the League Cup matches, or even the odd occasion when he's played in the team in the Premier League. But he certainly did the stuff today. Got off to a good start, was a fairly simple goal, but he played well. His all-round game was good, and he worked reasonably hard for the team on the defensive side. There was no huge threat from Burnley, so it was quite an easy game for Spurs as it went on. But I think he did enough to start in the next game against Fulham.
Does everyone just need to readjust their expectations around Bale? Because a lot goes back to those final couple of seasons at Spurs where he's electric, and then how he kicked on at Real Madrid, winning 4 Champions League titles. Do we just have to accept that Gareth Bale ain't ever coming back?
Well, I think people are having to adjust to that. I mean, certainly I felt that Gareth Bale could make a major impact back at Spurs. Our understanding of what happened at Real Madrid in the last couple of seasons where he was underused, he still got a reasonable number of goals in each of the seasons when he played games. Our understanding was that that they weren't looking after him very well, and he'd become someone who they wanted to move on, and that he wasn't doing the stuff at the level they wanted to from him. But that the feeling was if he got back up and playing with someone with a team and a manager who believed in him, he would do it. But you're looking at his performances since the start of this season, you're starting to think, well, now I can understand why Zinedine Zidane wanted him off the books, that he wasn't playing well enough, and that he didn't seem like he was really committed to doing the work in the game that's required of someone that's on the wage bill at a major club in the world. I mean, the first thing you're looking for off any player is graft and effort and commitment. And he didn't.
Was that an attitude thing, or is that a fitness? Because he was such, like, his athleticism was such a key part of what made him so great.
It's hard to believe that his athleticism and his physical ability would have declined so much that after a few months back in England, under the guidance of what you would think would be expert medical and strength and conditioning people, that he wouldn't have been in shape prior to now, which we're at the end of February. It's really hard to understand that. So there has to be some part of it that's his mental attitude and his overall well-being that had gone so far that it's taken 7-8 months into the season for him to get into the shape where he can start in the first team in a match of significance. I find it hard to believe, but today's evidence seems to be that the ability is still there, and that if his physical well-being is in a good place, that he can do it. Now, it was against Burnley, but lots of teams struggle against Burnley, and he seemed to be right at it today, and seemed to be no bother to him, and he gave Taylor a hard day, and he also, all the defenders had a hard time indeed in winning when he got on the ball.
Spurs desperately needed that win. They'd lost 5 of the previous 6. They've been in complete free fall. And historically, when we've seen that from a Mourinho team, he hasn't been able to stop the rod. He hasn't been able to turn it round. The attacking talent that Tottenham have, with Bale now part of it, Son, Kane, do you give them any chance of finishing inside the top 4 this season, which I guess would be success?
I give them a chance, but I don't think they'll make it. They're 6 points off with a game in hand on West Ham. But the problem for them is that they are not just behind West Ham, they're behind Aston Villa, Everton, Liverpool, Chelsea, probably leaving out somebody else there. But, there's a lot of teams. Leicester are obviously up there already. They're in third place, Manchester United second, West Ham fourth. There's a lot of teams in contention for those places who have more points than Spurs at the moment, have been more consistent, and have just as much reason for as Tottenham have for wanting to finish in the top 4. So I give them a chance, but I think that the likelihood of them appearing in the Champions League next year is more likely to come from the Europa League. But that's not going to be easy either. Even if they be Dynamo Zagreb, who will be difficult options. There's good teams left. I think they'd be happy that Milan and Manchester United were drawn against each other, but there are other good teams still in that competition.
We've seen a lot of Tottenham this season, and I think back to the day of the North London derby where they beat Arsenal, were top of the Premier League, and at that stage you're looking back in the Brighton game and the West Ham game and thinking, well, if they'd won the 2 of those that they should have won, they could have been well clear at the top. What's gone wrong since then?
Well, I never thought that was built on a very solid foundation, that they got to the top of the league. They lost the early game, first game with Everton. After that, they went on a bit of a run. They were fortunate against Manchester United. Manchester United had the Martial put off in the first half, and they exploited that, and they won convincingly 6-1. But there was a lot of the other games, I felt that, even the Arsenal game, Manchester City, where it was built on, they got a goal, they got a break, and they sat in and defended well. And I didn't think that was going to stand up to the test of time and more games against other opposition who would get the breakthrough. And that has proved to be the case. What's gone wrong? I think is an over-reliance on defensive football, where they tried to fall into a comfort zone of getting the first goal in the match, trying to sit on that lead, being found out. Confidence drains them when the opposition get a goal. Sometimes they've got 1 point from the game, other times they've been beaten, but they can't really have much complaint. They haven't been good enough, they haven't been consistent enough. The goalkeeper and the centre-backs have been brittle, I would say.
So is it a player's issue? Because
it's a combination of
Roy Keane was on Sky before the game and seemed quite adamant that take Kane and Son out of that team and there's nobody else getting anywhere near one of the top four.
Look, that's too rash of an analysis. It's not a detailed analysis. If you look at the players they have in comparison, I think to the squad that somebody like Aston Villa has, or Everton, or Leicester even, I think Spurs have easily a comparable squad. I mean, you could say Leicester's front man Maddison and Vardy would compare to Son and Kane, but I think we'd put Son and Kane ahead of them. And all around the pitch, I think they've almost got two players for every position around the pitch that are comparable to, I would say, everybody bar Manchester City at the moment, maybe even Manchester United. So I don't think the manager has got the best use out of the players. I think the players don't have confidence in the style of play that's being promoted as what's best for them, for the club. And as a result of that, they have lost far too many games once again. And I don't think the manager has got the best out of the players he has at the club. And I would put it down to the manager as much as I'd put it to the players.
Burnley, 5 points above the relegation zone now. They're missing their two main men up front in Wood and Barnes today. So maybe once that goal went in after 90 seconds, the game plan is gone. But do you worry for Burnley? Do you think...
No, I don't actually, Nathan. I always have confidence in Sean Dyche. They had a poor start to this season. And then they got going and they got into a position where you're saying, you know, how did they start so badly? But I've said this many times that I think the start many people had to this season was understandable, given the how the seasons were squeezed together, the lack of a pre-season, and with the squad they have, they're very short on numbers. There's been very little investment in the squad. Hope for them, I think, for the future is that with new owners there may be investment, but I think they'll be good enough to get away from the bottom three positions once again. Finished 10th last year. Here's a manager that knows how to get the best out of the players he has available to him, and the players that know what's required too.
And when you look at the top then, Manchester City, another victory yesterday. Hard fought against West Ham, but 20 wins in a row in all competitions. Again, looking at the depth and the quality they had on the bench yesterday and the amount of money they spent to get those players there. Like, there's a lot of talk about the quadruple. When you look at that squad compared to what's around Europe at the moment, and you've seen them all over the last couple of weeks in the Champions League, do you almost expect Manchester City to go on and win everything?
No, I don't. I think there'll be a day in one of the cup competitions that we've seen in the past from Manchester City. I mean, if they play Spurs, for instance, in the final, would it be a surprise if they lost to Spurs? I suppose it would, but there'd be other people who would say, well, why be surprised? Mourinho knows how to do it and put a plan in place and get the plan implemented by his players. They beat Manchester City before, and they could do it again on a one-off on the cup final. They might need to do it on penalty kicks to do it, but they could do it. But there could be another day in the Champions League along the road, as happened to them in the last few years when they've been beaten by the likes of, you know, Monaco, Lyon, Spurs, Liverpool. It could happen to them again. And for that reason, I don't think that they'll win the four trophies. But I think they have every chance of winning the Champions League this year, given where Real Madrid and Barcelona are in particular at the moment. I don't think Atletico are in a good situation. Obviously, Chelsea haven't beaten them in the first leg already. And, you know, while you might say, well, PSG will be still there, there'll be other teams be there. I think Manchester City have the best chance ever of doing it this season, of winning the Champions League. But that doesn't mean that they'll win the other competitions as well.
Great stuff as always, Brian.
Thank you, Nathan. Thanks very much.
There you are. The one and only BK talking to Nathan Murphy, and more live commentary on Off the Ball next Sunday. I think it's Manchester Derby, isn't it? Top of my head. Anyway, whatever it is, if it's on Sunday, you'll catch it on Off the Ball. Short ad break still, Everton 1, Southampton 0.
Wayne McCullough's going to get seriously hurt, I'm telling you now. And I think it will be his last fight, being honest with you. I'm going to smash Wayne McCullough up to bits.
Well, I think Nazim's all about talking. He just tries to get inside your head. He must think he's fighting a statue or something. No, he's not going to get hit back. I'm going to go in there and have a lot more to bring to the table than any other fighter he's fought. Everybody he fought has been knocked out or knocked down before, and this is a big difference. He's fighting a real fighter this time.
George Foreman, you and Wayne McCullough go back a way. You saw him in 1992 in Barcelona when he fought his way to a silver medal in the Olympics, fighting with a broken cheekbone. What was it that you saw in him then that is still a part of his game now?
I saw the love of the motherland. It made you feel like you were from Ireland that night. Everyone wanted him to win. Now, if he can recapture just a little bit of enthusiasm and have that something to fight for, we can have a good night tonight.
It's an 11th defence of the WBO featherweight title for Prince Nassim Hamed. McCullough, the former world bantamweight champion. Can he live with Hamed's power? He's never been stopped, but he's never fought a big puncher like Hamed, a featherweight who hits like a middleweight. It's another very good punch, but there is a right hand from McCullough, his best so far. Good answer, then he takes an uppercut. Hamed was stung into that, I think. McCullough choosing to stand and trade bravely with Hamed. Been a bold effort this by the man from the Shankill Road in Belfast. Tremendous bravery from him. He's had to take a fair few punches as he comes forward, but again, he eats them all up and still wants to come forward at Hamed. It's giving it a real go, isn't he?
He really is. A lot of courage, a lot of determination from McCullough. Well, they're stamping the feet all around there. They're willing McCullough on. They're willing him to close the distance down.
Oh, good shot, that right hand from Wayne McCullough. Listen to the Irish fans respond to that.
And then trying to plant his feet, but McCullough firing back here.
But then Hamed spits back defiance every time McCullough thinks he might have staged a breakthrough. Desperately trying one last late rally.
Well, he's certainly won some fans by this performance, McCullough. It's been very determined.
Fantastic effort from Wayne McCullough. He's done everything he's known. He's had some moments here, some significant moments too. And he's made Hamed work for this. McCullough goes across and shakes hands with the television people from America. Then he lifts Hamed up. He's the first man ever to go the distance with Nassim Hamed in a world title fight. It was a terrific, terrific effort from Wayne McCullough there. And Ireland should be proud of him.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Ready for your next big move? The trip from the fridge to the couch. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
News Talk Breakfast.
I think the first issue is putting women on the ticket and putting them in winnable seats. We all know that if you're not sitting at the table, that your views, your qualities, your emotions, your empathies to the particular topic that you might be discussing obviously can't be fed into that policy. So it's really important that women are at every table, at every level in the country, whether it's local, national or European politics, and right up to cabinet.
News Talk Breakfast with Ciara Kelly and Shane Coleman.
In association with AIR.
Weekday mornings at 7 on News Talk.
Free live streaming on all UK and Irish horse races now available on the Boyle Sports app. Fancy that informed striker? Markets now available on shots, left foot, right foot and headed goals. Track your bets and cash out or stick to your guns with cash out now available on 12 different sports. Boyle Sports. This is betting. Gamble responsibly. See gamblingcare.ie 18+.
The UK will introduce new checks on certain goods from April 1st as a result of Brexit. If your business exports food or other agricultural products to the UK excluding Northern Ireland, it faces changes, including pre-notification and new health certificate requirements. It's vital that everyone in your supply chain, from your UK customers to your logistics providers, understand these new rules and are clear about what they have to do. Visit gov.ie/Brexit for information and supports.
Shop online with Harvey Norman for big deals on home appliances and technology. Save €40 on the Bosch fully integrated dishwasher with dosage assist for optimal cleaning results. Now $399. Or get the Dyson V7 Animal Cordless Vacuum with up to 30 minutes runtime. Now $299. And at Harvey Norman, we're matching all competitors' prices, even their sale prices. So why shop anywhere else? Shop online at harveynorman.ie or safely in our spacious stores. Open until 6 p.m. daily for home appliances and essential technology.
Go! Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Fake crowd noise? The Emirates never sounded so good. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Now you're welcome back. So full times from the two games on this evening. Everton have beaten Southampton by 1-0. It was Richarlison early on with the goal in that game. If you're just tuning in at Goodison Park, that's Everton's fine form continuing. And over in La Liga, 1-1 draw for Madrid against Sociedad. Vinicius equalising for Madrid late on in the final minute of that game at the Bernabeu. That is pretty much us done here. That's the football show done. Football on Off the Ball is with thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. You can download the best bits of the show this evening. Brian O'Driscoll in very good form on Monday Night Rugby, and we had, I think, a good discussion on the Gordon Elliott situation with Richard Forstall and Johnny Ward. That's all waiting for you in the usual places. OTB AM coming at you tomorrow morning, 7:30. OTB Sports Radio, the OTB Sports app, our social channels, the Go Loud app. You have a multitude of ways to listen to the lads every morning. Graham Hunter on Barcelona, GAA Congress fallout with Michael Verney, and Stephanie Roach is going to be on with the lads talking football as well. Then, of course, we're on tomorrow evening. We'll have a few bits and pieces, I'm sure. Join us as usual from 7 o'clock. In the meantime, Tom Dunn on the way.